As training camp began, the Rams had 36 rookies on their roster. Sean McVay knew he'd have to do what he does best all over again: innovate. For a coach who's had successful offenses year over year, made schematic tweaks year over year, the 2023 season would have to be something special. That's exactly what happened in 2017 when he took the league by storm with his up-tempo, wide-zone play-action heavy scheme. Well, this offense is innovative just like that one, but in completely different ways. He has always used motion in innovative ways, but this year especially, he's taken that to the extreme. He's used it 70% of the time, third most in the league. Back in the day with Goff, they were running play action off the run. Now they're sitting back, picking defenses apart through the air with Stafford, stretching them out horizontally and vertically, ripping your heart out, all while including motion. Usually we talk about multiple games so I can show you guys the overarching themes of how something is played out over time. But for this one, I think it's best to just break down the Week 16 Saints game to illustrate all the different things McVay does to a defense in just a single game. To define his objectives when using motion, we can sum it up into two categories: shifting leverage and manipulating numbers. He uses quick motions at the snap to affect one or both of these things, so real quick, let's define them. Leverage is where the defense is positioned in relation to the receiver as the play begins. In certain situations, he'll be leveraged outside to force the receiver inside, and in others, he'll be inside to force him outside. Here we can see Paulson and Debo leverage outside on Cooper Kupp. This is to guard against anything outbreaking and then try and force him inside to his help. So McVay short motions Kupp inside, which triggers a Debo and Alontae Taylor to switch assignments, and because Taylor has to adjust his positioning, he's now inside leverage, which allows Kupp easier access to break outside and win easily. When McVay manipulates numbers, it's more to force the defense to rush in adjusting their assignments in order to cause a communication breakdown, since they have to think in split seconds. When defenses play zone coverage, they actually play man coverage to a degree. Sure, Isaac Yiadom is playing a deep cover 3 zone, but if Kupp runs, let's say, a corner route, he's not just going to guard grass, he's responsible for guarding his man. Defenders count receivers outside in 1, 2, 3, so that means that Taylor is responsible for Puka and Demario Davis, Tyler Higbee. However, when Kupp motions across, each assignment bumps over one, but when Puka and Higbee switch release where Higbee becomes the new number 1, Taylor is completely confused and we get an easy, explosive play. This has been the 101 intro class of what McVay's doing to innovate his offense with motion. And before we dive into the 202 advanced class, I real quick want to thank this season's sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports site where you can play players' numbers every day. They have any sport you can think of. You can predict a ton of different stats. If you want to make sports even more fun and win money doing it, PrizePicks is where it's at. To play, you choose 2 to 6 players and select whether they go more or less than their projection. PrizePicks just unveiled their Demons and Goblins pick'ems, where I'll get even more money betting that Amon-Ra scores a touchdown, since he's got a demon next to him. And I'll fade CeeDee Lamb because 100 yards feels like just too high of a number. PrizePicks has the fastest withdrawals of any daily fantasy app I've used. You load up the app, you're done so quick. And they're doing a deal where if you use my promo code Rollins, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Put in $100 right away, just like that, it turns into $2. What makes McVay's motion package so deadly is he knows exactly how to attack you. He can basically play your defense like a puppet. Here he motions Kupp across to a bunch formation where the Rams have 3 receivers. The Saints check into a common 3-receiver check called box, which gives them 4 defenders over 3 receivers and creates a box around whatever the Rams might run. The 2 underneath defenders have the first inside and outside routes underneath, and the deeper defenders have the first inside and outside routes deep. McVay knows that motioning into a bunch will trigger the Saints box check, and look where he motions Kupp. It's not close to the bunch, it's across the bunch to move Tyrann Mathieu out of the way even further, which gives Puka just enough room to sit down in the end zone. He runs directly at the deep and outside defender to keep him back and on his heels so only Pete Werner can make a play, but he's shielded off by Davis Allen, and him slipping doesn't hurt either. Every single part of this play is meticulously designed. McVay's motion can also create tells for the quarterback to better understand the coverage before the snap, and can also create quick and easy space in the defense. The Saints are trying to show a 1-high coverage pre-snap, But when Puka motions across, Tyrann Mathieu rolls into a too high shell, and because Puka gets a running start, he's able to stress the defense vertically sooner and cut into the open space quicker. Using motion here especially helps Stafford, which he needs since he's turning his back to the defense on play action. The tell shows him it's too high, and he knows the Saints specifically run a ton of Tampa 2 zone, where the Mike linebacker will guard the void up the middle. So even though he turns his head, he knows what's happening thanks to the motion, and he on time throws a strike over the middle. McVay also uses motion to define which matchups he wants, where he knows since the Saints keep using the same bump adjustment to his motion, he can practically pick and choose who is gonna guard which receiver. He has Puka running this wheel route up the sideline, but he doesn't want Adebo to guard him since he's more comfortable outside in his typical outside corner position, plus he has a ton of depth off the line. So instead, McVay motions Puka across and watch who switches onto him. Instead of bumping everybody over, this keeps their corner and safety in alignment and just has Taylor, the nickel corner, who's more used to playing inside, guard him, and watch this move. Puka fakes like he's chopping down on the double move, which gets Taylor to jump the route, giving him space over the top for the completion. If Adebo had defended this from depth, the double move probably wouldn't have hit the same, and the route would have been dead. For everybody who's watched the Rams and studied McVay throughout the years, we all know it's not just the passing game, the engine of his offense starts with the running game. This year is his best yet at using motion to manipulate numbers to create better blocking angles for his offensive line. It's no coincidence Kyren Williams has been balling out of his mind, and here I'll show you one reason why. With the Saints playing one high safety and playing zone coverage pretty much the entire game, look at what McVay does. All day they've been kicking out a second level defender to defend the jet motion while bumping over the rest of the second level as well. Why do they do that? In one high coverages, each defender has one gap in the run game. Mathieu has the B gap, Warner the A, Davis the C, the D-line fills in the others. But when the second level bumps over with the motion, it changes the responsibilities. Now Warner has the B, Davis the A, and technically the nickel Taylor should be in too, but there's another layer to all this. Because McVay loves using condensed formations with everybody in tight, this makes it easier for receivers to block, which means unblocked defenders have to step up and attack. When Puka blocks Taylor, this turns into what defenses call a crack replace, where the moment the defense sees a receiver blocking, the defender who was guarding him in coverage has to fill in for the assignment of the guy getting blocked. The problem is though, outside cornerbacks are always going to be the weak link on the field when it comes to tackling. The more you can get them in the fit, meaning they have a run responsibility in addition to their pass responsibility, the easier it will be for your running back to break the incredibly crucial first tackle. So here when McVay does it again, not only does Adebo miss the tackle, but he also just doesn't look interested in sticking his nose into the box, so Williams scores another touchdown. The motion triggers the same adjustment from the defense where they bump over, so Mathieu is once again taking Kupp outside, and the moment Adebo sees Puka cracking Taylor inside, he needs to replace him in the box, but he can't. He's way too slow, and he ends up missing the spot he needs to be in. This motion also helps create leverage for the offensive line, since the idea for a wide zone blocking scheme is to force the defense to slide with the side of the run to create cutback lanes. You can see the two double teams up front, then Warner and Davis are sucked over by the cut motion to the left. The blocks become easier to leverage, which makes it easier for Williams to use his impressive vision to cut back and score on the sleeping Adebo. Another thing I like that McVay does that is just kind of an extra little thing, it's how he gets into his base looks, the concepts he's run over and over for years, but adds a little extra flair to them to dress them up and make them look different. Here's that same cut motion we saw them running during the entire game, but now he flips back outside for the play-action boot flat route, and although it's not a huge gain here, you can just feel the headaches this creates for the defense when they're trying to process a million motions right before the snap that could turn into really anything. McVay has taken a team with a few wily vets and a boatload of rookies and turned them into a playoff contender and a serious threat. The best part about this offense is you can see the evolution from his past while also seeing how he slowly layered new types of motion to create the monster this thing is today. The system, on the whole, has helped offset the disadvantage of a newer crop of players. And in a year where the Rams were supposed to be down, this team's arrow is pointing up. They look to be one of the more dangerous wildcard teams as they teeter on the brink of playoff football. As long as Sean McVay continues to innovate with motion by attacking leverage and manipulating numbers, the Rams are ready to make a run.